This was one of the most difficult scenes that we shot in the Cultists. The first reason is that we were running out of time. Somebody on the set during this scene had to leave early. It was also extremely cold. And of course, in this scene, Leon Skye, who was playing Dave, is going to be covered in water. And our director, Brianna De Silva, very rightly, was concerned with the safety of the actors if we were going to cover him in water and so cold. It was near freezing. But Leon Skye was like, no, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just do it. So we couldn't dry him off either. So we had practice takes, but there was only going to be one take where we could cover him in water like that and have the scene go. And so with extremely little time remaining, and also some of our practices not even going all of that well, we decided, okay, now it's time. We got one shot, everybody's here, and that shot went off perfectly. So that was a one shot, we did it, and we got it. It was an amazing shot. Then we move to the guys here talking about what happened to the bench. We do have the reference to dog humping incidents, and that's actually some kind of reference to a spoof of scientific works that were done around this time when I was writing this, that someone had like spoofed some scientific articles talking about dog humping incidents. And so I wrote that into the show as something that they were concerned about. When you see Leon Skye playing Dave remove that fish from his robe after having been doused in all of the water that had fish in it, that was Leon's idea, and I think it was a great idea. The idea that Cthulhu could be summoned with teriyaki chips comes from a Facebook post from Justin Andrew Mason, who is a friend of mine and who writes for different RPGs. He actually had a bag of teriyaki chips that had these particular components that we recite as spell components in the Cultist, and he posted this to Facebook years and years ago, and he was like, I think I found the material components for summoning Cthulhu. And so I wrote that down as a note in my notebook. It was like, oh my God, this should be part of the Cultist. What are the material components for summoning Cthulhu? It's what's in teriyaki chips. Again, it was so cold during the shoot, and you can see how the witches are covered up in blankets during this. Oh my God, the only 2 weeks we have winter in Alabama, and we decide to shoot this show. Now, there are two very important cultural references that we make, Brianna and I, who wrote the show during this first summoning of Cthulhu. And the first is a biblical reference. There's a reference here to Elijah and his summoning of Baal. You're going to hear the witches of Azathoth shout some of the same taunts that Elijah shouted at the priests of Baal during that summoning. We're starting at 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 27. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is God. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. These are the same things that our witches of Azathoth say to all of our cultists here trying to summon Cthulhu. Brianna and I love making biblical references, and there are more during the Cultist show. Ultimately, one day, she and I would love to be able to do some shows or movies that are based on biblical stories together, and so this is our allusion to that. So definitely Elijah and the prophets of Baal are present in the scene, but also the Vincent Price movie called The Haunted Palace from 1963 is also present in this. This was one of the movies that she and I watched in order to prepare for this show. And so when you see the cultists stick their fists to the side of their head, wiggling their thumbs out to the side, that's actually something that happened in that Vincent Price movie that had to do with like the summoning of Yog-Sothoth. As I recall, is actually loosely based on the Case of Charles Dexter Ward by H.P. Lovecraft. And so when you see them do that, when you see the cultists do that in the show, that is definitely an homage to The Haunted Palace with Vincent Price. The bird bath was also an object that wasn't originally written into the script, but was something that was written in after we found it during technical scouting. When we were out here in the park with Brianna and Brennan, we saw that bird bath and we were like, oh my God, we have to do something with it. So when these rituals started to take place, we were like, okay, it's got to happen at that bird bath. And in this scene, we do have Mike step forward. And during the shooting, the cast started to refer to Mike as the Gryffindor of the group. So he starts to take charge, which seems to make sense, to direct them to, hey, wait a minute, we need to do something else to summon Cthulhu. And that sends the cultists down a path for several different episodes about sub-rituals they have to do in order to eventually get back to the summoning of Cthulhu. If you're enjoying this, please do subscribe to the channel. And of course, all of Season 1 of The Cultists is available here on YouTube. Just click below, go right to the playlist, and you can watch all of Season 1. Later.